to this the very real health and safety issues that affect those who live near transit, and we get a clearer picture of a system that is failing large numbers of San Diego region citizens. All of us will benefit from the creation of more good jobs and healthier air. Let's hear now how the Citizens Initiative will bring that to us. Our first speaker will be Gretchen Newsom. She's an accomplished and talented political strategist, community leader, and advocate of working families. Gretchen works as the political director for International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 569, a significant and progressive labor union that invests in good-paying, green-collar jobs, workforce development, civic engagement, and renewable energy. Additionally, she serves on the California Employment Training Panel and is President Emeritus of the Ocean Beach Town Council. She'll be followed by Carolina Martinez, Climate Justice Campaign Director at the Environmental Health Coalition. Carolina works together with residents in low-income communities of color to advocate for climate and land use policies that respect their priorities, improve health, and are consistent with environmental justice principles. Currently, she's working on a community-led effort to transform San Diego's transit system into one that feeds the region's livelihoods, reduces air pollution, and threads communities together via the San Diego Transportation Equity Working Group and the 10 Transit Lifelines. We'll then hear from Ariana Federico and Janet Sanchez. Ariana was born and raised in Southeast San Diego. She is currently the lead organizer at Mid-City CAN. She is working with the Improving Transportation in City Heights team and their campaign on funding youth opportunity passes and decriminalizing transit. Before becoming lead organizer, Ariana was a youth organizer and supported Youth Council with the passage of Measure B in 2020. Ariana is currently serving on the MTS Security and Passenger Safety Community Advisory Group. Janet Sanchez is a community member in City Heights and has lived there for 15 years. She's the mother of 5 children and dedicates time to volunteering with Rosa Parks Elementary, Monroe Clark Middle School, Ocean Discovery, and the Mid-City CAN Improving Transportation in City Heights team. After a question and answer period, we'll conclude with a focused call to action. As a reminder, please post your questions for speakers using the chat feature. But before we go to our first speaker, we wanted to just take a second to take a picture of all of us here tonight to learn more about the Citizens Initiative. So if you would please feel like smiling and showing us your face, that would be great.
All right, smile everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Gretchen Newsom.
Thank you. Wonderful introduction. It's such a pleasure to be here tonight. And we really do have an exciting opportunity to change our entire region and combat climate change while also investing in transit and jobs. So I want to provide a little bit of context and a little bit of history before I go through the slides. But San Diego 350, Mid-City CAN, EHC, and IBEW 569, we've joined together over many different advocacy fronts over the years, including supporting what I call Good Measure A last election cycle. And that was to try to curb sprawl development and more greenhouse gas emissions. And we also joined together to defeat what was known as Bad Measure A way back in 2016. That was going to widen highways, encourage more sprawl development and less transit investment and much more smog. And how the years have changed, we've continued our advocacy work And over the years, we've been key partners together in changing SANDAG. That's our regional transportation entity that controls a lot of how the region is developed and where development occurs. And we've always wanted to work together to meet our collective goals, which are to invest our public dollars in a socially and environmentally equitable manner to build a vibrant, inclusive economy that delivers environmental and economic justice, lifts up communities, and creates healthier communities. Also addressing the climate crisis and ensuring that natural resources are conserved. So we've worked together over the years to, first we had to go and change the law of how SANDAG operates, then we changed the board of who sits on SANDAG, then we helped change the leadership of SANDAG, and that was all in an effort to get SANDAG to finally adopt a plan, a regional transportation plan that is much better for our quality of life. And that better connects our communities with mass transit and less smog and less greenhouse gas emissions. And so now we have a citizens initiative or citizens campaign to help fund that new regional transportation plan that is going to be transformative for our community. So we are a coalition that's uniting to put this measure onto the 2022 ballot that's going to allow voters to choose a better future for San Diego County, other than just more LA style smog and traffic and congestion. And together tonight, what we're going to discuss is how we can provide the essential transportation improvements that are going to improve and make our life better for all of San Diego County residents, such as getting more cars off the road by expanding the mass transit system, making our existing roads and highways safer and more efficient, fixing aging bridges and local roads and rail lines that are in danger of collapse, and reducing air pollution to protect our environment and our quality of life. So what we present to you tonight is Let's Go San Diego, yes for traffic relief, yes for transit, and yes for jobs. So I'll go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we started off by just kind of recognizing all this advocacy work that we've been doing. We also need to start moving forward in how to fund this transformative new plan. And SANDAG a while back unveiled the 5 big moves to transform San Diego's transportation. And so what our Citizens Initiative is doing is helping to support these 5 big moves. And again, this new regional transportation plan. And drivers in San Diego are also saying they'd like to consider transit. They'd like to have alternatives so that they can get around the area more conveniently. Because right now we all know if you look up on Google Maps right now, you want to go from A to B across the county, it's going to take you at least 3 times longer to do so by transit because we don't have the system in place in order to provide that opportunity in a more equitable manner and reducing those greenhouse gases. So this new plan helps change that, and this new Citizens Initiative helps fund that. Next slide, please. So we did a poll early on. We asked voters of, giving them an initial concept. We polled 605 voters throughout San Diego County to examine the feasibility of a proposed ballot initiative that would improve county transportation system through a 1/2 cent sales tax increase. And given a brief conceptual description, nearly 3 in 5 voters would support the proposed ballot measure. That's awesome. The study also found broad and durable majority support for the ballot measure, both initially and then also after an exchange of pro and con messages. And also note the positive, there's support for a transit ballot initiative. It moves up to 61%. But again, because this is a citizens initiative, we're going to go into this a little bit more. It only requires 50% plus 1 for approval. If this was an initiative that was put to the voters by SANDAG, or another government agency, it would require at least 2/3 to pass. So this only requires 50%. So the time right now is ripe to get this done. Next slide, please. So the basics of what we're proposing, and I'm going to load after I get done with my presentation into the chat, the full ballot measure, so you have access to that if you wanted to peruse that, and also the campaign website too. But just the basics is, it's the Transportation Infrastructure and Safety Projects Initiative. That's how it's going to go out to the voters, and that polls really well. People like how that sounds. It would be San Diego's first ever transit first ballot measure. Other entities like Los Angeles, they've done this. We haven't done this here yet, of saying that we really need to invest in transit first and really building out that system. Again, it's a citizens initiative, so that means we're collecting signatures. We're going to go into that a little bit more later, but we're collecting signatures to get this onto the ballot. So 50% plus one for approval. It's going to be on the November 2022 ballot, which is when the most number of people vote in the November general election, as opposed to a primary or a June election. So watch for us in November. And then we're going to go into this also, but we've got a strong coalition, environment, labor, business, community, all united around this concept. And right off the bat, we've already raised $1.5 million, which shows a lot of strength for a campaign like this. Next slide, please. Coalition so far, we're hoping to add more and more support to this, but you already see the environmental community behind this, Climate Action Campaign, Environmental Health Coalition, San Diego 350, Circulate San Diego, which is largely advocating for safer pedestrian access to roads and sidewalks and things of that nature. You also have labor is also throwing in their support behind this, the IBEW, the electricians union, the carpenters, the laborers, and also the teachers are also showing support, as well as all of the San Diego County building trades unions. And then from the business community, you have Flatiron and HMTB. Those are by and large major transit infrastructure firms. So they know how to do this. They do this for a living. And then also CPI, or Center for Policy Initiatives. And then right there in the center, we got the endorsement of the San Diego Democratic Party, which is a huge, huge endorsement. So hoping to grow this, but it's already looking pretty robust. And but we do need help to get this on the ballot. Next slide, please. The impact, just right off the bat, 20% reduction in carbon pollution. That's what the Regional Transportation Plan does by investing more into mass transit and reducing the number of cars on freeways and highways. You're going to reduce carbon pollution by 20%. Again, transit first. This new plan is not about adding more freeways or widening lanes and adding more cars and adding more traffic, because if you build that, people will come and you'll have more traffic and more smog. This is about mass transit. This is about making it more efficient and a better quality of life by giving you that opportunity to ride mass transit and get from A to B in a more efficient manner. There's also included in the Regional Transportation Plan $3 billion for habitat conservation and preservation. We're really proud of the advocacy work that we did at SANDAG to make sure that that wasn't included. And then we also did a lot of work. We're going to hear even more about this, about equity for environmental justice communities, really investing equity in that concept into SANDAG and into the Regional Transportation Plan, and then adopting what the 10 lifelines that the Environmental Health Coalition have been advocating for into this initiative as well. Next slide, please. The vision, I love these photos, upgrading existing transit lines. That's the rail lines and building that out, having an expressway for the blue line, adding to that, having the purple line built, having an airport connection. Those are all upgrades to the transit lines, developing new transit and rapid routes so that those buses can move quickly to get you from A to B. The climate resilient infrastructure photo, that's really about repairing and protecting our rail lines that are right now at risk of falling into the ocean. The coastal rail line, that's also called the Low Sound Corridor, is the second most used corridor in the entire nation. And right now with the bluffs up in North County at risk of failing and falling into the ocean, that's a huge thing that we really need to fix much sooner than later. The vision also has, again, habitat preservation and open space. The active transportation and the road repair component is having additional bike lanes and pedestrian safety components, making it easier for people to get out of their cars and get out there in our wonderful environment and moving around more efficiently. And then there's a smarter, more efficient use of highways too, again, without adding more lanes, but making it more efficient through technology of how we use those lanes right now. Next slide, please. The projects, this image is from the Regional Transportation Plan. So this is how SANDAG is proposing to really build out those mass transit corridors. And again, it involves moving the Del Mar rail line off the bluffs, making sure that we are connected still to Los Angeles and we can get back and forth. Imagine what the economy would be like if that was not the case. The coaster and the sprinter speed and frequency updates, rail access at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. Finally, there's so much traffic over there that really needs to be addressed by bringing mass transit over there. A rail connection to the San Diego airport. We are one of the only cities in the world that doesn't have this concept of when you fly into our airport, which is centrally located, you should be able to hop on mass transit and then be able to move around. So we're going to get that fixed. And then millions more each year for MTS, the North County Transit District, to operate the system. First, you have to build the system, and then you got to be able to operate the system and make sure that we have those bus drivers and other workers out there. Also transitioning to zero emission buses and electric charging station build out. So taking dirty buses, moving them to EV buses so that they don't have emissions. Preserving habitat and open space again, and then turbocharging transit-oriented affordable housing development. So as we continue to develop and identify these areas for mass transit, you should also be building housing around those transit hubs. So this is going to help turbocharge that. Next slide. A sip of water, hold on. Okay, benefits. Again, first ever time that we're ever going to do this, a landmark investment in San Diego transit and dependable transportation. Again, over 20% reduction in carbon pollution. I know San Diego 350, you care a lot about that. We all care a lot about that. We need to have a future that we can breathe the air and still survive. Reducing the commute times by up to 20%, more reliable transit countywide, more affordable transit options for vulnerable San Diegans. That's keeping the fares either low or free for our vulnerable populations, including senior citizens, the disabled, veterans, youth, students, just making sure that more people can have this opportunity. Dedicated funding stream for expanded MTS operations, and thousands of good union jobs in construction, transit, and clean energy. Just recently, Sandag passed a project labor agreement, meaning that once we build out this system of mass transit, those construction jobs are going to be local jobs, and they're going to be providing quality construction careers with good wages and family health care and retirement benefits as well. So if you're thinking about a career in construction, you know somebody that is, now it's going to be a really good time to get in there. I can help you out with that afterwards. Next slide, please. That was my final slide. I'm sorry. But this provides you with some of the details for the campaign. I will go ahead and load the website into the chat, letsgosd.org, and then also load another link so that you have the full ballot initiative. But this is a transformational citizens initiative, and it's going to impact our entire region and give us a better quality of life. So I hope that you will join us in helping to get this on the ballot, and I will go ahead and turn things over to Carolina. Next
slide. Hi, so it's me, right? Now it's my turn. Okay. Yes. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Gretchen, for the great introduction into the measure. I'm going to be talking about the work that we've been doing in collaboration with San Diego 350, Mid-City CAN, City High CDC, and CPI. We have a campaign, a collective campaign that's called the 10 Transit Lifelines, which you may have known about already and heard from your colleagues within San Diego 350. Once again, my name is Carolina, and I work at Environmental Hope Coalition. It's San Diego's environmental justice organization. We work in a lot of different issues, and transportation is definitely one of our priorities. So I'm going to speak about the priorities that the communities have identified, and also the work that we've been able to advance. So we can move it to the next slide. So here, it's an introductory video we put together in collaboration with all our partners. We put together a set of 10 videos, 10 stories, 10 transit lifelines, all about the priorities that our communities have identified for the regional plan, for the so much transformation that the system needs here in San Diego. as Gretchen mentioned. And this is the introductory video. I should say that I'm going to share a couple more videos, but they're all very brief, and we hope you enjoy them.
I couldn't get on time to my appointments.
Because it's not efficient enough.
Necesitamos más transporte. We need it now.
It takes too long to get anywhere.
I couldn't get on time to my.
Thank you. So, like I said, Environmental Health Coalition works to address issues of environmental racism and to advance environmental justice. And I wanted to make sure that we all understand what environmental racism is, and that is either the intentional or unintentional. And that's a very important word. Unintentional is still racism. And when we're talking about environmental racism, it's the result in exposing people of color or low-income people more so than others to greater environmental hazards, to the like, for example, if we have heat waves or fires or anything that has to do with the environment and exposure, and people of color ending up in a worse condition than others. That is all either intentional or unintentional, and we're working to change that. So we can go to the next slide. So the communities where we work at, right here, you'll see a little bit old map of coronavirus screen. Coronavirus screen is a tool that the state put together that identifies those communities that are most impacted. And so this map overlays data that has to do with income levels, but also exposure to hazardous sites or the freeway pollution, unemployment, formal education. All of those maps put on top of each other help us identify where are the most vulnerable communities in the state of California when it comes to environment and climate. And it's not perfect, I should say, but it is a very strong starting point. And in San Diego, we see that one of the communities that is at the front lines of the climate crisis is Barrio Logan. We also see City Heights being identified, and the community of the city of National City. So EHC works with all of those communities, and we work with residents that are experiencing these issues, and we organize with them. We can go to the next slide. And so when it comes to transportation, as Steve mentioned, transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. So I wanted to present this picture that unfortunately what we're seeing in San Diego is it's also an issue of the state of California, and it's pretty consistent. In the state of California, the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions is transportation, as you see right here in blue. And once we take out the blue section, the transportation, if you look at the brown graph, you'll see that passenger vehicles is the largest source. So that is you and I having to drive a passenger vehicle. And that's a big issue. It means that we have a system in place that is obligating us to create greenhouse gas emissions, and we need to change that. And the good news is that we can, and there are a lot of feasible ways to do that. So I'm gonna transition to the next slide. So just so that you get a picture of that's what's going on at the state level, here's what we have here in San Diego. You see a lot of consistency. 41% of the greenhouse gas emissions are coming from transportation. Most of us are driving by ourselves. So we're carrying this big old metal machine just on our own because we have to go to work, we have to go to the grocery store, to the doctor, to do all our stuff. And on the other side, 12% of low-income residents in San Diego County are the only ones that are having access to reliable transit. So that leaves a really good, most of us don't have reliable transit, low-income communities. So we got to change that, and that's why we're here. So we can move to the next slide. The other problem that we see that is something that helps us identify the impact of not having a reliable transit is looking at jobs connectivity. And in the San Diego region, 71% of the jobs are not reachable by transit. That means that most people are either having to drive or choosing between a good job and a bad job because they're not able to connect to a job. We have some of our members have shared stories of not being able to access other job opportunities because they're not able to connect to it. The transit system is inefficient. And just like we're saying here, it's not affordable, reliable, or frequent enough for us to depend on it. We can go to the next slide. So like I said, there's all these issues. Our communities, our low-income communities of color are at the front lines of the climate crisis, but also of unemployment. There is a concentration of a lot of issues in our communities, but we believe that there's a lot of concentration of solutions and innovation. And we've been able to demonstrate that by all the work that that we've done throughout the years. The best solutions are the ones that are identified by those people that are dealing with the issues. And so we organize and we work with community members and we follow their lead to make sure that we're providing solutions that are actually realistic and work. So we could go to the next slide. So within that, with that in mind, that means that we worked with our community members and with our partners here to identify what were the 10 priorities for our communities. What, if we had it all, what would we prioritize in terms of transit in preparation for the regional plan, but also some of you may already have been involved that we were working on another measure through MTS. And so all of that informed all this work. So this list has been in the making for many years now. And so the list includes things that could actually be implemented immediately, like the youth opportunity pass or bus service improvements or restrooms. All of that is very, very basic and it's actually financially feasible. And it's something that we could do tomorrow if we could. And then there's other stuff that's a little bit more expensive, like the Blue Line Express or the Purple Line, and that's going to take some time and years. But there's a combination here of projects that could be implemented right now as we see the bigger projects being built out. We could go to the next. So here I wanted to share another story of one of our community members. His name is Roddy and his friend Kevin. And Roddy is sharing a story about the importance of frequent bus service to be able to connect to medical facilities. And we could start it now. Thank you.
My name is Roddy Jerome, and I live in City Heights. About 3 weeks ago, a friend was sent to the hospital via ambulance due to his extreme high blood pressure. On the way to the ER, he had had a major stroke. Upon hearing the news, I went into high anxiety mode. I knew I had to get to the ER quickly. Not having transportation, I impulsively jumped on the bus. You know, I had to take a bus to a trolley, and I had to take the trolley to another bus, and then I had to transfer to another bus. It was frustrating, you know, I was frantic. I mean, I was angry. I just was thankful that I was able to get there. We need to improve bus frequencies, period. Because it takes too long to get anywhere.
That was the story about buses and accessing medical services. We often, when it comes to transit, we often focus on numbers related to jobs, but as we learn more and more, we're hearing, you know, being able to connect to the doctor is pretty important. And so this story is very efficient at telling us why we need a comprehensive solution when it comes to transit. We can go to the next slide. And the last story I'm going to share today, it's about Alicia and her husband, and the opportunity that we have when we have a reliable transit system, and also serving as an evacuation when we have either climate emergencies or disasters, like what happened back in 2020 when one of the ships in the bay exploded and went on fire for days. Many of us remember that because we also had to deal with the smoke. And so here's the story.
Mi nombre es Alicia Sánchez, soy residente de National City y tengo viviendo aquí en esta comunidad hace más de 20 años. Mi esposo, él padece de cáncer, él necesita la máquina respiratoria para poder dormir en la noche.
Hold on, Lily, you don't have to interpret.
Tuvimos una explosión muy fuerte, muy peligrosa. Ese día que fue la explosión, sí oyó a mi casa porque estoy cerca de la naval, pero no pensamos que había sido un barco. Cuando salimos miramos el cielo muy sucio, una capa de humo. En la noche el filtro amaneció negro. No tuvimos un transporte público inmediato. Tardaron hasta 3 días para poder sacarnos de la comunidad. Nos impactó mucho. Entonces necesitamos algo seguro como un transporte público que sea gratuito para la comunidad en caso de desastres, en caso de una evacuación.
So, thank you. So like I said, we identified 10 priorities, and out of those 10 priorities, we were able to get most of them into the ballot measure that Gretchen talked about. If we're able to pass the measure, there is funding in there that could be utilized to implement the Blue Line Express, also to reduce fares, so implement the Youth Opportunity Pass, as well as the bathrooms. There is naming on improving the infrastructure and the transit system, improving the systems, the service itself. So like Gretchen mentioned, funding for MTS and North County Transit, and that's operation funding that could go directly into improving frequency. So the measure is definitely something that it's a priority for our communities, and the next step in the process. I'm sure you've heard of all the work that we did to advance the regional plan. And the regional plan includes a pathway to all this transit lifelines. And so we're here to share this information, but also to elevate the importance that this measure has for environmental justice communities. And I would like to end by saying that that we're in a journey to transform policy and to transform our transit system, but ultimately we need a huge systematic change, and this is an invitation to continue to be in that process and go. And once we have all those electric buses, once we have an amazing transit system, we know that that we need to do even more so that we could have reduce the impact that we're having on the planet as it is, and have healthy communities. So I'll end it there. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ariana Federico. I am the lead organizer at Mid-City Can. My pronouns are she, her, ella. So just a little bit about Mid-City CAN. We are a nonprofit organization. We are a community collaborative-based organization in City Heights. We work on different issues around police accountability and overall, right now, currently working on improving transportation and really ensuring to create solutions and policy changes that will continue to have last-longing impacts for our community. So today we're just going to be talking about ITCH and their current campaign on YOP. So ITCH is improving transportation in City Heights, and their current demand is to fund no-cost youth opportunity passes, which are transit passes for all of young people in San Diego. And when we're talking about young people, we are talking about 24 and under. So those young people that are still currently exploring career opportunities, ways to get involved in their community. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Next slide, please. So why advocate for transportation? So our team does focus specifically on youth opportunity passes. We support a lot of the actions behind the 10 transit lifelines. Overall, our residents and volunteers at Mid-City CAN do rely on public transportation, and they haven't experienced yet a public transit system that is suited for them, that has been there to be accessible, to serve them. Specifically for youth opportunity passes, we are advocating for no-cost transit passes because we do want to see our young people, our residents and students be able to get to work, to school, and participate in after-school activities to really become these young people that are becoming their fullest potential as they grow into being adults. And of course, with youth opportunity passes, we would be creating of culture transit riders. So eventually we would see these young transit riders become adult transit riders. And within that, we also see less traffic and a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Another challenge that we have seen with transportation and the cost of transportation is that it is a financial burden for our young people and for their families. And you'll hear a little bit more about that with Janet. Next slide, please. So before we go on to talking more about youth opportunity passes, here's Naomi sharing her story and another demand for the 10 transit lifelines.
My name is Naomi. I live in Barrio Logan. When I was 17 years old, I had a very important doctor's appointment to go to in Tijuana. And of course, I needed to take the trolley. And I remember getting to the trolley stop. It was a really hot day, and the times displayed on the trolley station were 30 minutes delayed. But after the 30-minute wait, the trolley got there and it was really, really packed with people. And the next one wasn't until 37 minutes. I had to call the doctor and let them know, and they were not able to reschedule me. We need a Blue Line Express that operates 24 hours so that people get to their important appointments on time.
Thank you. So again, one of the demands for the 10 transit lifelines is youth opportunity passes. So our ITCH team started to advocate for youth opportunity passes back 10 years ago, actually. Back in 2013, our team won a 2-year pilot program that was funded through the city of San Diego and San Diego Unified. And we saw 850 students be eligible to use public transportation without no cost. Some of the findings that we saw was that a lot of our low-income youth depended on public transportation to get around San Diego County. And we did hear from testimonies from young people that mobility and the sense of safety increased for high school students who received a no-cost transit pass. So this is why we have continued to advocate for youth opportunity passes. Not only is it an opportunity for our young people to have access to career opportunities, to find themselves, but I think it's also an opportunity to be safe and to really become a member of what San Diego has to offer. Thank you. Next slide. So I would like to invite Janet just to talk, for her to talk a bit more about her experience and her own personal story.
Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Janet Sánchez. Soy madre de familia y residente de City Heights desde hace 15 años, voluntaria de las escuelas. Soy miembro del equipo de Mid-City Can Each, que es un equipo que se dedica a mejorar el transporte en City Heights. Mid-City Can cree en un mundo donde todos los jóvenes tienen acceso a oportunidades para convertirse en adultos felices, saludables y que contribuyen. El transporte es esencial para que los jóvenes lleguen a la escuela, al trabajo y a las actividades deportivas y a otras oportunidades profesionales tempranas. Sin embargo, muchas familias no podemos pagar el costo del transporte, lo cual afecta negativamente la prosperidad económica de nuestra región y nuestro medio ambiente. Hace 10 años, los residentes de la comunidad de City Heights comenzaron a abogar por un programa visionario, pases de transporte sin costo para los jóvenes, también conocido como pases de oportunidad juvenil. Para mí es muy importante que este programa piloto funcione. Va a dar muchos beneficios. Como en mi caso, yo tengo 2 hijos que ocupan el transporte y a veces no contamos con los recursos. Son $6 diarios. Bueno, $6 al día, pero tal vez no se oye mucho, pero a veces no tenemos. Y por eso para mí es muy importante apoyar el programa de transporte para jóvenes. Yo sé que sería muy bueno tanto para mí como para mi comunidad. Esta oportunidad también es para que haya menos automóviles y hacer cambios en nuestro medio ambiente. A lo mejor no lo vemos, pero tenemos mucha contaminación. Esto contribuye a limpiar la contaminación. Por esa razón yo les pido que apoyen el programa piloto y apoyen la medida como Vamos San Diego, porque van a invertir en mejorar el transporte y dar oportunidades de dar oportunidad de tener más programas accesibles. Gracias.
Gracias, Janet. Thank you, Janet. So Janet did talk about a pilot program, and we'll go through that. But here's Denise's story. She's actually an ITCH member and has been a member with us, and she was 15, and now she's in college, and she's continuing with her advocacy.
I'm Denise Lopez. I'm 18 years old and I live in City Heights in San Diego. I was walking with my friend to get transportation, but when we got there, we found out that we don't have enough money and we're unable to demonstrate that we are youth. It was starting to rain now. We had to cancel the plans because if we do spend the money that we saved up for our books, we won't have any more. It will only be used for transit. To resolve these issues, we have to implement a program for the youth, something that's simply like a basic need for a human to have. And we all need to have transportation.
Thank you. And now I'll take some time to talk about the social equity pilot program, because this is a huge win that we had, and it was a shared win with community organizations and SANDAG that were part of this process. So the social equity pilot program is a pilot that will be running for a year. And with this pilot program, we will be seeing opportunities for young people to have access to a free or no cost transit pass for 1 year. So this is going to be accessible for young people 18 and under. And added onto the pilot program, we will be seeing transit services on the weekend and weekday routes. Either they will have additional services or we will be seeing more of those services. And that will be more to come closer to the spring and summer. Community-based organizations will have an opportunity to do some outreach, educate, and share with our community members about the existing pilot, really get folks ready, especially young people, get ready to use that program. And after that program, they will be conducting a research study to evaluate the benefits of a pilot. I do want to emphasize the research, because that's really going to show and help us know where young people are at and how we can meet their needs, but also how is it that we can continue to support them with a program like Youth Opportunity Passes. So this is just a huge win for our community, for our partners, and just for everyone. And if we can go to the next slide. And I just want to highlight the amount of work that really does go into having these programs even become a reality. So we see, we're here today to talk about a citizens initiative and really ask for your support. So for the pilot program, that day we had 26 folks that gave public comment. We had 2,760 folks sent letters to their representatives, and 22 organizations come and show solidarity by signing on to a support letter. This really goes to show that it is our community. It does really take our community to make these changes that we want to see. Because if we don't do it, then who else is going to do it for us, right? And I just want to highlight that. An expected start date for the social equity pilot program for Youth Opportunity Passes, it is expected to start on April 1st. And that is a tentative date, but that is the expected date. So I just want to share a lot of the excitement and opportunities for you to stay up to date about what's happening. And then if we can go on to the next slide, please. So if you are interested in learning more about Youth Opportunity Passes, or if you have a young person that would be interested or would like to share more about their unique experiences about public transportation, we are a multi-generational team that's open for everyone. We do have monthly meetings. Our March meeting will be hopefully in person, depending on COVID restrictions. And you can RSVP at the bit.ly/itch March 14th. And if you would like to receive updates, we will be sending more updates about the pilot program and really be here to support folks, making sure that young people have access to that Pronto card with no cost. So please sign up for updates at midcitycan.org/support-YOP, and feel free to follow us on our social medias at MidCityCan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariana and Jeanette, Caro, and also Gretchen. That was really enlightening. I think we got a lot of information there. We're going to open it up for questions. We've had a couple come through on the chat so far, so we'll see if some more come through. I'm going to jump into a question for the panel here from Libby from earlier. The question was, air traffic is only 9% of the state's emissions, ? Can you unpack this a little since the general understanding is that one flight emits as much pollution as a year of driving, or at least that's my understanding. Thanks. So admittedly, air transportation is extremely polluting, but so are cars. What we're seeing is air traffic represents less than 2 to 3% of the global CO2 emissions, whereas road traffic accounts for around 10%. I know we're talking specifically about our local area here, but that's the global stat. Still, planes, they remain among the most polluting means of transportation other than cars. But I'd like to open that question up to the presenters and see if there's additional comments that they'd like to give Libby on that question.
Go ahead, B. Were you gonna say something?
Go for it, B. Oh, you got to unmute, B.
Sorry. Well, actually, California has an extensive national and international amount of linkages in air travel. And so it's responsible for a disproportionate share of United States aviation traffic. And the fuel use and CO2 emissions, according to CARB, which is the California Air Resources Board, these emissions account for 7% of statewide emissions. And that's the statistics from 2012. So it's outdated, but as Bill was saying, it is a huge polluter. And just FYI, if you're taking a trip and you can do a nonstop, that's the best way to lower your emissions, because every time you take off and land, you're using extra fuel to do so. So hopefully that's helpful.
Thanks, B. Any other presenters want to address that one? If not, I have another question here ready for you.
Yeah, I think that was great. Those are great answers, so I don't want to add anything.
Okay. So assuming this gets on the ballot in November, which we're all hoping for, can you talk some more about the countywide benefits? Say someone in Poway or Ramona. Gretchen, you showed the map of the quarters that we're looking to expand up, but it doesn't cover everywhere in our county. Can you talk more about the message for those people and those voters countywide?
So the message is a little tricky. For one, there's going to be additional habitat preservation. So like when those corridors were highlighted, the other areas are not to be as developed. So stop sprawl development on things and lower greenhouse gases there. But then also the quality of the roads will be better for those communities as well. So the RTP, the Regional Transportation Plan, covers the entire county on everything. So also in theory, those folks that live out in East County that aren't as connected into mass transit and don't live in the urban hubs should have less traffic because more people will be utilizing mass transit. So maybe that might make their life a little bit better too. And cleaner air. Everyone needs cleaner air.
That sounds like good reasons.
Yeah.
Ariana, Caro, did you want to comment on that question?
I feel like it would be helpful also to understand that we have areas in San Diego region that are rural areas and their transit needs are different than the urban core. And so the idea is that we're embarking on a journey that's also going to transform transit in those areas. And while this is a proposed set of projects, it doesn't mean that that's where it ends. It's a starting point. It's going to take us decades to build an efficient transit system. And so this is just the starting point.
Agreed. Ariana, did you want to weigh in, or I'm seeing you shake your head no, like that covered it. I don't see any more questions in the chat. I think we've got some action items here for everyone on the forum to share with them. So I think we'll move ahead to that unless there's any last call for questions here. I think we're good to move on. Katie,
Bill,
can
did you want me to speak before we go to action items?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
Can we go back into the presentation mode?
Okay. Thank you, Bill. I'm Bea Mittermiller, the other co-chair of the San Diego 350 transportation team. And I'd like to thank Gretchen, Carolina, Ariana, Jeanette, and our interpreter, Lilia, for participating tonight. Also, many thanks to team members Paloma, Bill, Wendy, Katie, and my co-chair, Steve, for putting together this presentation. And thank you to all who attended tonight. I hope that tonight has been educational and inspirational for everyone. We appreciate your attendance, and please stay on for a few minutes more. Our campaign coordinator, Katie, will be giving you details about actions everyone can take to advance equity in the San Diego transportation system, and also how to get the Citizens Initiative ballot measure on the ballot and then passed. So I will pass the mic on to Katie now. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight and for being so interested in helping fight for transportation justice. Like many of our speakers have said, it's really going to take a grassroots movement to continue this fight, as well as to get this initiative on the ballot. So one of the main things that you can do that literally any registered voter in San Diego County can do is sign this petition to help get this initiative on the ballot. So we have a few opportunities for you to do this. First, you can table with us at the Transportation Expo happening this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We will be collecting signatures as well as if you just want to go check it out and sign the petition yourself, please join us. There will be electric vehicles there for test driving, as well as scooters and bikes that you can ride. So please go check out that event. The next event you can go to is our kickoff petition party. That's going to be happening on February 20th from 2 to 4 p.m. In Balboa Park. I'll be emailing out to all of you information on how to sign up, but that is another chance for you to hang out with all of us and sign the petition yourself, as well as learn how you can actually collect signatures with your friends and your family. So please join us. Gretchen it will be there speaking, and we will give you a short training on how you can actually collect signatures. And then finally, the other thing that you can do is fill out our form on how to just let us know you are interested in attending. So I'm gonna put that link on the chat right there. And finally, I'm gonna be sending out a follow-up email after this event with the video, the slides, as well as several other actions that you can take, including where you can go sign the petition on a near daily basis. So thank you all so much for participating. Really appreciate your attendance tonight.
Katie, since we have some time left, I think if there are any more questions, we could have them now, or else we can end.
Can we talk?
Yeah, I think we can
Another
definitely.
formal event. Oh my God, I love this. 350 puts out like a very well organized event. So impressive. Thank you
Beautiful.
so much.
Great.